Jane wants to know, of all the women you wrote about in the Poor Little Rich Girl article, well, by the way, there's also a wonderful book called The Primates of Park Avenue, which I highly recommend. It's fascinating. Who was the one that she wants to know? Which of the women that you met and wrote about stuck with you the most?
One woman who really stayed with me was a woman who I talked to about sex segregation. You know, I talk in the book about how men and women spend a lot of time apart, and even when we're socializing sometimes, the women might be in one room at a dinner party and the men might be in another room entirely.
I couldn't believe that.
Yes, and you know, I looked at in my article.
You didn't mean during dinner, did you?
Yes, I meant
after?
during dinner.
Wow.
During dinner sometimes, which was a very, that was also an arrangement that prevailed in the Victorian era, that kind of sex segregation. And it prevails worldwide in many different cultures. And usually what we see is that where there's sex segregation, the status of women is lower. That's what the ethnographic data tells us. Anyway, one woman in particular I spoke to about this, and I would say the women were kind of divided into thirds when I talked to them about sex segregation. I wasn't used to it at all. Why were we not flirting or not sitting together? So about a third of the women I asked about it just hadn't really noticed it. They were deeply comfortable with it and it made sense to them. A third of the women said, "You're right, this is kind of interesting." And then a third of the women said, "Yeah, this is really weird." So one of the women who really stays with me was a woman who said, "Yeah, this is really weird." And we had a lot of conversations about it and became very friendly over this topic. And she was kind of a person who, like many of the women who talked to me, all of whom I went to great lengths to protect, and I also went to great lengths to protect the women who didn't want to talk to me. But this woman, like so many of the women, was a woman who had a great sense of the strangeness and interestingness of the culture as she lived in it. And that's a rare person who can be living in their culture and find it strange and unique, and that there are issues worth addressing in it at the same time.